Now you can hear me. It's that darn button again. See, here's the thing. I don't have Lon Hurst to produce for me. I do all this by myself, and Adam knows what I'm saying. I do this all by myself. It's a one-man show, and there are a million things that are going on up here at the same time to get this out to you. And that doggone button, which doesn't change colors, I turn it off when I go live, and I inevitably forget to turn it back on. We'll get that fixed. Here I am. I'm back. You folks over on Discord already pretty much know what I'm going to say, because here's the deal, folks. When we go live over on Discord about 10 minutes before we bring Facebook and YouTube in. So you got to go over to Discord and join our Discord community. There are a lot of extras over there for you. Across for East Alabama and West Georgia. So let me rewind. We'll start this over again. Dr. Don with you on your Tuesday evening, September 24th, 2024, to give you an update on Tropical Storm Helen, probably going to be Hurricane Helen by the time you get up tomorrow morning. And so I was talking about the confidence level. We told you last night we felt like the confidence levels would be higher today, and they are. We have a pretty good high level confidence right now that we are going to see some effects of this storm, and I would say about a medium confidence level as far as the effects and the exact placement of those effects. One thing we can tell you with great certainty is that the track of the storm, if you're going to be west of the track of the storm, the further west you go, the least amount of effects you'll have to deal with. If you go right of that track, along and to the right of that track, that's where the bad weather will be with this storm. So let me go back over to the graphics, and I'm going to start going down through here and giving you some information on this. And let me find where we put all of this. It's right here. Okay, so you're looking at the radar. I'm going to read through some of this, then we'll show you some graphics. The height of the storm will be after 10 p.m. Thursday through noon on Friday for East Alabama and West Georgia. That'll pretty much be the window of opportunity up here in Northeast Georgia as well. Again, after 10 p.m. Thursday night through noon on Friday. That will be the height of the weather as it's associated with Helen. Now, you're going to get rain in East Alabama and West Georgia tomorrow, but that is going to be from the cold front that's pushing into northwest Alabama as we speak. As a matter of fact, we've had thunderstorms across Tennessee all afternoon, and quite a few of them have gone severe, and we've even had a handful of severe storms up here in North Georgia this afternoon. And we'll show that to you a little closer on the radar here in just a few moments. But that cold front is in the process of stalling out. So it's going to send waves of showers and thunderstorms across East Alabama and West Georgia pretty much starting tomorrow. And that will be an on and off thing throughout the day on Wednesday and Wednesday night, and probably again on Thursday. And then we'll start to see the effects of the hurricane start moving in late Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. And the height of all of this between about 10 p.m. Thursday night through about noon on Friday. Now, what can you expect across East Alabama? Now, hang in here with me, folks. We're going to talk East Alabama. We're going to talk West Georgia. We're going to talk Northeast Georgia. We're going to give you the full gamut here. Basically, from I-65 in Alabama, I-65 basically splits the state. From I-65 east over to the Georgia state line in Alabama, you're looking at 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. And then in West Georgia, you're looking at 25 to 35 mile per hour winds. Again, this is Thursday night into Friday morning. The further west you go toward Atlanta or I-75 in Georgia, the higher those winds are going to get. And then the center of circulation should run right up, maybe right over Atlanta, from Albany up through Atlanta. That's the track we think that will be the track of the storm. Along that track and east is where the absolute worst weather will occur. with this hurricane, and most of that will be in the state of Georgia, maybe getting into western South Carolina some as well. But in that corridor, basically I-75, or maybe a little bit west of I-75 and east, is going to be the dirty side of the storm. That's where you can expect the higher winds, the higher rain totals, the tornado threat. We still don't know, and that's one of the things I was talking about just a moment ago, the confidence level on the severity of the storms, such as tornadoes. We're still about medium on that. We really got to get this thing up to Category 1, Category 2 before we can see the MO that this hurricane's going to take on. If it starts to look like it's going to be a high tornado producer, then that threat will increase across East Georgia and up into the Northeast Georgia mountains. But right now, we just don't know exactly how big of a tornado threat we're going to be looking at. You know, we have seen hurricanes in the past that produce just very few tornadoes, and then other hurricanes have been a large tornado producer. We don't know about this one just yet because it just hasn't developed to that point yet. I think by this time tomorrow, we will certainly have at least a Category 1, if not a Category 2. Weather should start improving across East Alabama and West Georgia as we head toward mid-morning, noon-ish on Friday. So that's the deal. We're talking about 10 p.m. Central on Thursday night through about noon on Friday. The tornado threat in East Alabama is going to be extremely low. I wouldn't be comfortable calling it zero. But I think it would be very, very low across East Alabama. West Georgia, the tornado threat, yeah, maybe just a wee bit, but you got to get over there to where the track of the storm comes up through the state of Georgia. Along that track and to the east or to the right is where the better chances for tornadoes will be with this storm. Tropical storm watch is already in effect for places such as Albany, Georgia. That's an inland tropical storm watch. And we have inland hurricane watches all the way up to the Georgia-Florida state line. And actually, I think there's a tier of counties down there in South Georgia that's already under a hurricane watch as well. Anywhere in southwest Georgia, and I know the folks down there in southwest Georgia are a little freaked out right now because it hasn't been that long they dealt with Hurricane Michael. From Mexico Beach all the way up to Donaldsonville, Lake Seminole area, all the way up to Dougherty County, back over toward Ware. You guys have PTSD from Hurricane Michael. I get it. And we're just going to have to kind of watch this thing and see how it evolves over the next 24 hours. But if I live anywhere in that area that I just mentioned, I would have a plan to evacuate so that you don't have to go through that, even if the wind damage isn't that significant. There will be very large and long-lasting loss of utilities in that part of Georgia and Florida from this storm. I can almost guarantee you that you're looking at 3 to 5 days minimum with no electricity in some locations. Of course, the more rural you are, the longer it will take to get the power back up. If you live in downtown Albany, you probably come back relatively quick. But if you live out in the burbs, if you're out in the country, and most of that land down there from Albany southwest is very rural, you could be looking at multiple days there with no power. So, if this does come to fruition and we start to see a Category 3 hurricane making landfall south of Tallahassee, I would seriously consider finding somewhere to go. Because even though you may not sustain damage at your home, you're going to be without utilities for a while. Just for you folks in Georgia, let me tell you that Governor Kemp has now declared a state of emergency for the entire state of Georgia, and the Georgia Emergency Management Emergency Operations Center, the State Emergency Operations Center, they refer to it as the SOC, will stand up at full activation tomorrow morning. So the government in the state of Georgia taking this very seriously. And all resources will be available for this storm, for the duration of this storm. So that's kind of what we're talking about down south. Again, I'm catching questions out of the corner of my eye in the chat room. What about? The whatabouts are alive and well this evening. Again, folks, East Alabama, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds, and we're talking about in the peak of this between 10 p.m. Thursday night and noonish on Friday. We're talking rain on average 3 to 5 inches. I think East Alabama's probably more in the 2 to 4 inch category. West Georgia, 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gust with rain in the 3 to 5 inch category. And that rain is going to be between tomorrow and Friday, not just Thursday night. So I don't really anticipate any flooding issues in East Alabama or West Georgia. If you get one of those big, heavy tropical downpours, there could be some momentary street-level flooding issues, flash flooding variety. But I don't look for any major flooding issues in East Alabama or West Georgia. And again, the tornado threat will be almost non-existent in East Alabama and extremely low in West Georgia. Now, down in southeast Alabama, the winds could get a little bit higher. We're talking about maybe Dothan up to Eufaula. We could be looking at wind gusts of 40 to 45 miles per hour. All right, let's talk about northeast Georgia for just a minute, because I know I got a lot of folks in here up here in the mountains wanting to know what the deal is for Cleveland, Georgia, Dahlonega, Helen, Gainesville, Lake Lanier. We're probably, and again, confidence level is about medium on what I'm about to tell you, but we're probably looking at wind gust in the 40 to 60 mile per hour range. Maybe up on the ridge tops of the mountains, we could approach 65 or 70 wind gusts from time to time. Flooding will be likely, and we're talking rain totals of anywhere between 3 and 5 inches will be common up here in the northeast Georgia mountains, but locally we could see some amounts of up to 8 inches of rain. Flash flooding could occur starting tomorrow. When some of those heavier rain bands move in, our rain's going to start up here in northeast Georgia tomorrow with that low pressure system that's parked over Alabama. And then Thursday afternoon, we could start to see the tropical range from the hurricane move in. And so we could be looking at some localized amounts of up to 8 inches up here in the northeast Georgia mountains, which could cause some flash flooding issues. And we could have some river flooding issues as well. We'll certainly have to keep a real close eye on the Chattahoochee. You know, the Chattahoochee River starts up here in Helen, Georgia. So typically we don't see that river fluctuate that much because the basin isn't that large up here. However, you go to throw in, 5 to 8 inches of rain in that river in a relatively short period of time, we could have some river flooding issues. Double-edged sword here. This is going to be a relatively fast-moving storm. Meaning that once it punches inland south of Tallahassee, it's going to be trucking to the north at maybe somewhere between 15 and 18, 19 miles per hour. So it's going to be moving quickly. That will help us with the possibility of flooding all across East Alabama and the state of Georgia. But the negative to that is it will punch inland so fast it won't have time to deteriorate before it pushes those tropical storm-force winds much further inland than what would be typical with a landfalling hurricane. So the forward motion has a lot to do with how much wind you get or how much rain you get. If it's a slow-moving storm, obviously you get more rain, you have more flooding issues. A fast-moving storm, less flooding issues, but you get wind pushed much further inland, and I think that's what we're looking at with this storm. Would not at all be surprised to see wind gust maybe in Atlanta or just a shade bit east of Atlanta out there around Stone Mountain, certainly in the 50 to 60 mile per hour category, and that will translate all the way up here into the North Georgia mountains Thursday night late. And I think up here, our effects are probably after midnight Thursday night into Friday afternoon. I think we probably go 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon before things start to improve up here in the northeast Georgia mountains. So again, high confidence that impacts will occur, medium confidence in the level and timing of those impacts. Folks understand, some indications are this storm could be huge as far as the effects field is concerned. Some indications are this storm at some point may be up to 400 miles wide. So the outer edges of this could certainly get into Georgia, East Alabama, West Georgia, and even up here in the northeast Georgia mountains sooner than we anticipate right now. As we continue to send the hurricane hunters into the storm tonight, by tomorrow, the confidence level will come up, and I think we'll start to see the National Weather Service really hone in on the specifics as to, a much better idea of how much rain we're going to see in the different locations across the region and what the highest wind possibilities will be. Right now, our confidence level on that part of this forecast is about medium. All right, so let me go back to the graphics. There's the hurricane. There's the cone. I've got a coworker that refers to this as the cone of death, and that is absolutely incorrect, Marcia. This is the margin of error. That white cone area has nothing to do with how far out the effects are going to reach from this storm. A hurricane's not just a dot on a map. This white area is just simply telling you that the center of circulation could track anywhere within that white cone area. And the further you get away from where the storm is right now, it starts to widen out because the margin of error that far out in time will expand. So don't focus on this, but it does look like that we'll see the storm making landfall south of Tallahassee probably late Thursday afternoon, early Thursday evening as a Category 3, which will be around 115 mile per hour winds. That would be a major hurricane. And then continuing as a hurricane, probably down to a Category 2 or maybe Category 1, crossing into Georgia, south of Albany, and then moving very close to Albany up through Atlanta and then back to the northwest because of that low pressure system sitting over Alabama. It's spinning counterclockwise. Hurricane is spinning counterclockwise, and the Fujiwara effect will take place when that storm gets close to the low pressure. The low pressure will actually pull the storm into it, and they will absorb one another and become one system. As to what happens after that, right now it looks like it's going to eventually turn back to the north and run on up into the Ohio Valley. But there are still some questions as to what happens on Saturday and Sunday. Right now, our forecast looks pretty good on Saturday and on Sunday. All right, here's the severe weather threat for the state of Alabama on your Wednesday. That's tomorrow from 10 a.m. through about 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And this is going to be for the possibility of some strong to marginally severe storms. A brief tornado would also be possible. This is tomorrow, though, folks. This has nothing to do with the hurricane. And this will be Wednesday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Basically, from about 5 points there in Chambers County back over to Alexander City and to a point just south of Chilton County or Clanton, all the way down to the south and southeast. Southeast Alabama from about I-85 south would be the threat for tomorrow. And again, this is marginal. It's very small. Don't anticipate this being an issue, really, but we'll watch that for you tomorrow afternoon. Flash flood potential. The red area is where the greatest risk of flash flooding will be as we get into this storm. And this time frame is tomorrow through Friday. So you can pick out your location there, anywhere from Tallahassee up to Columbus, up to the Alabama-Georgia state line there at LaGrange. and then all the way up to North Alabama, and then back across the state of Georgia, up into upstate South Carolina and western North Carolina, and portions of Tennessee also under the gun. And that's a 3 out of 5 risk right there of having some flooding issues in that red area. The yellow is a lower risk. That's a 2 out of 5, and that covers pretty much all of Alabama, the rest of Georgia, a good chunk of Florida, and then the green is just a marginal risk. You folks over in West Alabama not going to see a whole lot out of this system. So that's the flash flood potential. Here's the rainfall totals that we expect. Again, we're basically looking at that 3 to 5 across East Alabama, stretching into West Georgia, and then up here in the mountains, we could be looking at the 6 to 8 inch range, especially right along the Appalachian chain up here in northeast Georgia. Reasonable arrival of tropical storm force winds. Had a lot of questions about this graphic today. Now, this is the earliest reasonable arrival of winds. This doesn't mean you're not going to have any wind until the times you see on the screen. We're talking tropical storm force winds, and that starts at 39 miles per hour, and this is the earliest reasonable. This doesn't mean that this is what time it's going to start. But the absolute soonest we think it could start across East Alabama and West Georgia would be Thursday afternoon around 8 p.m. And then it would be closer to, like I said, 10 p.m. or midnight up here in the northeast Georgia mountains. It may be that it's midnight before it gets breezy in East Alabama, and it may be 1 or 2 a.m. Friday morning before we start to see anything up here in the North Georgia mountains. This graphic is simply showing you the earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds if they occur. Now, just because this says that the earliest reasonable time is Thursday at 8 p.m. across East Alabama doesn't mean that it's absolutely going to happen. You may not get tropical storm force winds at all. But if you do, the earliest reasonable time it could happen would be around 8 p.m. on Thursday. I hope that makes better sense for you. Now, prior to that time, could you have some breezy conditions of 20 to 30 miles per hour? Absolutely you could. And that'll probably start sometime Thursday morning. Heck, we'll be breezy probably tomorrow afternoon, 10, 15 mile per hour. If we get any heavy storms forming down there in southeast Alabama and southwest Georgia tomorrow, it could get breezy tomorrow with those storms also. So we're going to have to kind of play this one by ear as we go along and see what's actually happening out there. And then again, there's a breakdown of the tables. Tropical depression from 0 to 38. Then we go tropical storm status at 39. We're already there with Helen. Category 1 starts at 74 miles per hour, 2 at 96. This storm is projected to go to Category 3 at 115 mile per hour winds, and that starts at 111 and runs up to 129. So, I mean, you get much above a Category 1, there's going to be damage. Trees are going to fall, power lines are going to come down. You start losing roofs when you get up there in that Category 2 and 3. You start to see some pretty significant structural damage. The good news is that should be right along the Gulf Coast. We would not hold on to a Category 3. Probably would be below Category 3 status by the time it gets to Tallahassee. And then certainly up into Georgia, maybe Category 1, and then probably at tropical storm force by the time it makes it up into the Albany area there Thursday evening. So those are the graphics. Let me go back over to the radar, and I'll turn my attention now to the chat room, and we'll see if anybody has any questions. All right, where did the chat room go? There it is. Okay, Miss Cecilia hanging on down there at Newman Farm in Chambers County. Good to see you in here. Hey, Bo Medlock. Folks, Bo is a firefighter up here in White County, Georgia, and he is a Dr. Don reporter in training. We're going to get Bo to record some stuff, and we'll be featuring him here on Dr. Don's Weather. He learned all about the Fujiwara today. We had class this morning. So you can see there that he's just typed out Fujiwara. Bo knows what that is. Bo knows. You Auburn fans will get that. Hey, and there's daughter Sam. She's out running around the logistics base in Albany trying to catch all the feral cats down there to get them inside and keep them safe during the hurricane. Let's see. Football game Thursday. That's not cool, Jennifer. That game should probably be moved to Friday night. We're not. I don't think we're. Where is the ball game going to be, Jennifer? I guess I better ask that question first. Tallahassee working. Local meteorologists are predicting possible Cat 4. That is a possibility, and that's what my daughter lives in Albany, and that's what I've been telling her. If this increases much more than what they're predicting right now, which is a Cat 3, then you folks down there in southwest Georgia need to be looking at getting out of town. So, but you'll have plenty of time. We'll know that by tomorrow if they decide to take it to Category 4. We'll see. We have recently had several hurricanes, and Michael being one of them, that did explode right before landfall and made it to Category 4. And actually, Michael ended up being in Category 5 after all was said and done. Yes, Angela, the storm's going to be a fast-moving storm, which means that the stronger winds will punch further inland than you would typically see. But right now, given the track that the Hurricane Center is giving us, and let me go full screen on the radar, and let me bring this down so that you guys can see it. And I know it's kind of hard to see. By the way, you need to be watching us on your big screen TV off of YouTube. That's the best way to watch our coverage because you can blow that thing up and you can really see the resolution a whole lot better. Also, if you're watching us on your smartphone, turn it sideways and get it as big as you can so you can see the resolution and the detail. But watching us on your big screen TV is the best thing to do. All right, so this track is actually shifted, not much, but shifted back just a few miles back to the west during the 5 o'clock update this afternoon. So we're looking at really landfall somewhere around Carabel Island, back over to south of Tallahassee. Then the track to the north up around Quincy, Florida, and then into Georgia near Bainbridge. Would be just to the west of Albany. So Albany, that does put you on the bad side of the storm. And then up through Buena Vista, up to around Gay, Georgia. A lot of folks over there in East Alabama know where that's at. And then somewhere between Peachtree City and Grantville, it should start to veer off to the left when the Fujiwara effect starts taking place and that low pressure system in North Alabama starts pulling it back to the northwest. And should cross over I-20 somewhere out there around Douglas, Georgia. Douglas County, I should say. And then to a point over Rome. And then up to around Chattanooga. Now that keeps all of North Georgia, Northeast Georgia in that right front quadrant, which is where all of the nastiest weather will take place, including the possibility of tornadoes. Now, all of you folks over here in East Alabama, you're going to be to the west side of the storm. That's the side you want to be on. And certainly you'll have some gusty winds, and there'll be some rain involved in it, but the tornado threat should be along and to the right of this forecast track. Now, where I'm going with all of this is we'll have to watch this tomorrow to see if this track gets shifted around any more than it already has. If I had to guess, it'll probably get nudged back to the east just a little bit. Now, let me go way down here to where the storm's at right now. Right now, the storm's moving northwest, and it's expected to shoot the gap between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula and then start to turn back to the north and eventually northeast. Now, exactly where that turn takes place will ultimately have a big impact on where it does finally make landfall up here in the Big Bend area. So, I mean, you can see that just a shift of 25, 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles either way could make a significant difference. I think the Hurricane Center is accounting for that possibility because they have run the hurricane warning all the way over to Mexico Beach, just in case this thing shifts a little bit back to the west. And then also a big margin of error to the right because we have hurricane warnings all the way down to just north of Tampa. So this storm could also veer back to the right a little bit as well. And if it moves, the track moves any at all in the next 24 hours, that's what I would expect. It may shift back over toward I-75 and be more of an I-75 corridor track. But anyway, if you stay west of it, you're in good shape. If you're to the east of the track of the storm, you got a problem. It's pouring down rain up here in northeast Georgia right now, too, by the way. Let's see if we have any questions. Meriwether County's in the house. Hey, good to see you in here tonight. So we'll get some bad weather in Wadley. You're not going to get hurricane weather in Wadley, no. You're on the west side of the storm. Well, could there be some showers over there? And could there be a rumble of thunder in Wadley tomorrow? Yes, but that's unrelated to the hurricane. That's the cold front that's washing out across Alabama. If this forecast holds good, Wadley is in East Alabama and will be on the west side of the track of the storm. That's the side you want to be on. The severe weather will be to the right of that track of the storm. Lynn Haven, Florida, tomorrow afternoon. Let me look at something here. Yeah, you should be fine. I mean, if there's any weather in the Lynn Haven, Panama City area, it would be Thursday afternoon, not tomorrow. And again, if everything stays on track like it is right this moment, Panama City is going to be fine. You're talking offshore flow at Panama City all the way back to the Alabama coast. So the wind will be coming out of the north, pushing the water away from the coast. May actually be pretty nice weather down there at PC as we head throughout the rest of the way. I mean, it's going to be breezy. You're going to have tremendous riptide currents, and there will be occasional showers, but we're not talking hurricane weather at Panama City if this forecast holds true. But Lynn Haven tomorrow should be just fine. Sue Ellen says she's watching us from Washington and she misses the storms here. Somebody check Sue Ellen's temperature. I think she might have something. I like a good storm too, just as long as everybody's safe. Cragford, Alabama at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, just rain. Fredonia tomorrow night, you're in East Alabama. Remember what I said. If you're west of the track of the storm, it's going to be breezy, 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gust. Now, hey, can that bring down a tree or two? Certainly it can. And there most likely will be some scattered power outages across East Alabama and West Georgia. But the more intense weather is going to be to the right of the track of the storm, which should be to the east of East Alabama and West Georgia. Same thing for Valley and LaGrange. How bad do I think wind damage will be? Well, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds won't cause much damage. Certainly, there will be some trees down, but we're not talking widespread stuff in East Alabama and West Georgia. Now, Central Georgia, East Georgia, different story. We could be looking at widespread tree damage and widespread power loss across Middle Georgia and East Georgia. I'm going to say from Atlanta, I-75 east is where the greatest danger is going to be for widespread tree damage and power outages. Miss Mayra watching us from the Frog Eye. Hey, Steve, thank you. Will it be bad in Crackford? You're in East Alabama. You are going to be west of the track of the storm. 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gust Thursday night into Friday morning. 3 to 5 inches of rain between tomorrow and noon on Friday. Could be some flash flooding and gusty winds. Hurricane weather? No, not in East Alabama or West Georgia. Will LaGrange be bad around 11 a.m. tomorrow morning? Let me go over and get my crystal ball out. I'm just picking at you, Beth. I have no way of knowing if it's going to be bad at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I mean, that cold front's going to stall out across Alabama, and we certainly could have some rain in LaGrange tomorrow. The severe threat is very, very low tomorrow, and really is going to be south of LaGrange, basically along I-85 and south, and that's a marginal, a very small risk of a severe storm tomorrow. So I would not anticipate severe weather in LaGrange at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, no. Driving from Roanoke to LaGrange for a stress test. Well, if it is storming, you can just turn around when you get to the parking lot because your stress will have already been tested. Kingsland, Georgia. You're going to be out there off the coast. You should be on the southeast side of the state of Georgia. You should be okay there. But pay attention to the local forecast. It'll be breezy for sure. Columbus, Georgia to Auburn, same thing. You're looking at 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gust. Lots of rain tomorrow and Thursday night, lasting until about noon on Friday. And the height of the wind most likely will be Thursday night into Friday morning. And the highest I would expect in the Auburn or Columbus, Georgia area would be in that 20 to 30, maybe occasionally 35. The further east you go into West Georgia, the wind will be increasing. Thank you, Lexi. What about Roanoke? Anybody want to take a stab at where Roanoke's located? East Alabama. 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. Heavy rain from time to time starting tomorrow. The 20 to 30 mile per hour winds would likely be Thursday night into about noon on Friday. You are going to be west of the center of circulation. That is the good side of the storm. The dirty side or bad side or severe weather side will be along the track of the storm and to the right or east of the track. That is if the current track holds. And I got to tell you, the confidence on the current track is pretty high. Camp Hill, Alabama in the house. Kim, staying weather aware. It's a good idea. Thank you, Nan. Standing Rock, East Alabama. Yeah, Remy, that's pretty much the deal here. As long as it stays on the current track, As long as it stays on the current track, I wouldn't say west of Atlanta because the track is going to be just a little bit west of Atlanta. If you're going to be west of Villa Rica, if you know where that's at up there on I-20, if you're west of Villa Rica, I think you're going to be okay. And I really do anticipate this track to shift back to the right just a little bit. I think it will be shifted back to the east, probably back over Atlanta before all is said and done. Terry, Florida Keys, are they suggesting evacuation down there? Honestly, I hadn't looked at it. I don't think they are. But if they do, then follow your local emergency management advice on evacuating if they're going to evacuate the Keys. This will be a very large storm. We're talking maybe up to 400 miles wide, so you certainly will feel some of the effects of the storm. But the center of circulation, should stay well to your west, and it'll be at Category 2 when it passes you down there. The Keys are not looking at a direct hit from this by no means. Missy's watching us just north of Atlanta. West is the best, east is the beast. There you go. I like it. Standing Rock. Where you at, Standing Rock? I'm not even going to answer that question about East Alabama. Chance, to my knowledge, you don't have a wind advisory. Let's see. Let me look at something here. Yeah. There are no advisories in effect for East Alabama. We have a flash flood watch for the state of Georgia that does come up to the Alabama state line, but at the moment, there's nothing in effect for Randolph County, Alabama, or any Alabama county. Yeah, I think you're looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain starting tomorrow and ending at about noon on Friday, and 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. And the peak of the wind would be late Thursday night into about noon on Friday. That's for East Alabama and extreme West Georgia. Basically, our coverage area across East Alabama and West Georgia, and that encompasses, in Georgia, Carroll, Meriwether, Hurd, Coweta, Troup, and Harris. In Alabama, Cleburne, Calhoun, Talladega, Clay, Randolph, Chambers, Tallapoosa, Coosa, Elmore, and Lee. If you're in those counties I just named out, we're talking about 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. Maybe the West Georgia counties see a 35 gust from time to time. It's possible. That would be Thursday night into Friday noon. And then 3 to 5 inches of rain starting tomorrow. So that 3 to 5 is going to be stretched out over Wednesday, Thursday, and part of Friday. So over a, 53, 54, 55 hour period, 3 to 5 inches of rain is not that big a deal. But some of that could all come in short bursts, and you get a couple, 2-3 inches in one heavy thunderstorm. You could have some localized street flooding in all of that, but I wouldn't expect major flooding issues across East Alabama and West Georgia. Up here in the hills of northeast Georgia, Miss Cecilia, it may be a totally different story. We are to the right of the center of circulation of the track of the storm. So right now we're preparing for a situation very similar to what we had up here back in, I think it was 2017 with Hurricane Irma. We got it handed to us up here during Irma. The Appalachian Mountains does affect tropical systems, and Irma, took names. We lost many trees. We were without power for days, and we're preparing for the same possibility for this event. We're right now, and we'll know more tomorrow once we get a category hurricane underway. But right now, we're probably preparing for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds and up to 8 inches of rain up here in the northeast Georgia mountains. Terry, when you head home, I apologize because I've got like 1,000 messages going in here. Are you the one that's going to Lynn Haven? I think you are. Thursday, if you're coming back home, as long as you get out of there by, noon, 1 or 2 o'clock, I think you'll be fine. And we're not talking about landfall near Carabel until probably late afternoon. Now, it's going to be windy. Certainly going to be windy. There are going to be showers around. It's going to look pretty bad. But it won't be hurricane weather. You wouldn't have to drive in hurricane weather if you're coming back from Lynn Haven, Florida on Thursday. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate the kind words. Hey, Chris Yeldut up here in Cleveland. Right now, and I think the Weather Service is going to get on board with this in the morning. I think we're going to probably be looking at 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust and up to 8 inches of rain. And that's going to cause problems. We're going to have certainly the possibility of widespread trees down and power outages across northeast Georgia. And tornadoes are going to be a possibility as well. The one on the line is where it will make Category 1 status. And I don't buy that, by the way. I don't know where they're feeding some data into this, and we're talking Category 3, most likely. There's a 1, then Category 2 just to the west of Key West, west of Miami, and this says Category 1 as it approaches the Big Bend area, but I don't buy that. And I'll put the spaghetti models on there for you right quick so you can see all the different possibilities. You can see that landfall could be anywhere from Apalachicola all the way down to just north of Inverness, Florida. But most of the models are grouped tightly there in the middle. So the National Weather Service kind of splits the difference there. And they've got it coming on shore just barely east of Carabel, Florida. Let me show you what's going on up here in North Alabama right now while we're talking about this. And you can see that we have that line of showers and thunderstorms moving across North Alabama from Huntsville down to Columbus, down to Jasper, and then just west of Tuscaloosa back to Philadelphia, Mississippi. And then over here in Georgia, we have had some rather big storms this afternoon. We had a severe thunderstorm warning at one point for the north end of Lake Lanier down in Hall County. And we just had a pretty good shower move through the southern end of White County, which is where I'm at. For those of you interested, there's Dahlonega. Most of you know where that's at. And there's my That's the shower that just moved over our studios. You can see that once the rain passes, that mountain right there. I live on the side of that mountain. It's called Waka Mountain. Yeah, the official National Weather Service forecast is a 3. Well, I appreciate that, Remy. We're fixing to find out. We're fixing to find out whether I got it or not. I've had to advise some folks about football weather today. It's Tuesday. We have a hurricane coming. And I've already thrown it out there as to what I think the weather's going to be on Friday evening. And actually, right now, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good night for high school football across East Alabama and West Georgia. Monkey Mountain, that is correct. My river man, when he was a little younger, before he could pronunciate real well, he referred to where I live as Monkey Mountain. Howdy, Book. Good to see you. My thoughts on the storms tomorrow, I think we may see a handful of strong storms tomorrow. And that's going to be associated with the low pressure system that's coming in with the cold front that's going to stall across Alabama. And that's where the Fujiwara effect is going to take place. What that line that's coming across Alabama right now is convection that's running well out ahead of the cold front. The cold front will come in tomorrow. There'll be another line of showers. And the cold front's going to kind of stall out, which will keep Alabama and probably most of Georgia in the soup tomorrow. And there could be a handful of strong storms tomorrow, but I would expect most of anything that goes severe tomorrow to be south of the I-85 corridor. And that will be unrelated to the hurricane. We don't start seeing the hurricane effects in South Alabama, South Georgia, probably until sometime afternoon on Thursday. Understand, folks, we're talking a 400-mile wide storm here. So the effects will be far-reaching to the north and northeast of the track of the storm. So once this, probably anytime after about noon on Thursday for places like Albany, Tallahassee, and back over into southeast Alabama. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have hurricane weather that early, but it'll start getting breezy, and you'll start having those outer feeder bands that'll make it stormy. Probably shortly after noon on Thursday, and then it'll probably be 10 p.m. or so across East Alabama and West Georgia, and probably after midnight up here in northeast Georgia. Troop is right on the 85 corridor. Miss Cecilia, yes, and yes, and yes. The thing what I'm hoping for, well, number one, I don't think you guys in East Alabama are looking at anything overly significant. The further east you go after you get into West Georgia, the higher the winds are going to be. But I think our West Georgia counties are going to be okay as well. Yes, there will be some scattered power outages, and yes, there will be some scattered flooding issues both in East Alabama and West Georgia. But it won't be widespread like I think we're going to see up here in northeast Georgia and certainly east of the I-75 corridor. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to handle both. And I'm hoping by the time it really hits the fan up here, you guys will be calming down there in East Alabama and West Georgia. That's what I got my fingers crossed for anyway. Well, I just looked over at Discord. It looks like looks like our Discord feed went down. I don't see it over there. I'm still learning this Discord folks. Yeah, Joe, I think you stand to get some much needed rainfall out of this. I think it will be very beneficial. The ground is parched, so it's going to soak up a lot of this. But yeah, if we get one of those tropical feeder bands that sets up across East Alabama and you start getting rain rates at the, rain at the rate of, 2 inches an hour, then that's where you might have some flooding issues. But I think for the most part, this will be beneficial for East Alabama and West Georgia. All right, so we're coming up on... okay, there may be some type of time limit on that iSchool Sports Network. I'll have to check on that. Because, yeah, we've been going 58, almost an hour. Probably a 30-minute limit on that. Unless you pay an extra $12.95 a month, and then they'll let you go for an hour. The streaming business is expensive, folks. If you get a chance to help us out, we greatly would appreciate it. Clay County's playing Thursday night. I mean, there's a chance you'll get the game done before but it's going to be raining. I mean, Friday night would have been a better option, but I mean, Thursday night's going to be okay. Now, folks, everything I've said over the course of the last hour is based on this track being correct. That one right there. Everything I have told you over the last hour is assuming that is correct. And I think it probably is. The Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, has really done a pretty phenomenal job over the last couple of years with the track. Now, the ultimate effects, maybe not so much, but the track of the storm, they have pretty much got that pinned down pretty good. The intensity, the forecast intensity, and the effects that'll be felt in certain locations, yeah, there's a little work that still needs to be done with that. But forecasting the track of a storm, they've gotten pretty doggone good at it. So if there is any change to this track, I would expect it to be very minimal. It could wobble back and forth west and east in the forecast over the next 24 to 48 hours before it makes landfall. But I would not anticipate a major track shift with this particular storm. So, again, everything I've told you, including the 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in East Alabama Thursday night into Friday noon, West Georgia, maybe 25 to 35 mile per hour winds, timing about the same, Thursday night into noon on Friday, 3 to 5 inches of rain between tomorrow and Friday noon for East Alabama and West Georgia, with a very, very, very low tornado threat. As a matter of fact, East Alabama is almost non-existent. West Georgia would be extremely low. All of that is based off the fact that this is the track we end up with. Understand, this storm is still way south. We're talking coming through the straits there between Cuba and Yucatan Peninsula. So it's got a long way to go. Got 48 hours before it starts to threaten the Florida coast. Somewhere in the Big Bend area, probably just east of Carabel. So there's time for things to change. There is time for weather patterns to change, though I don't expect it. I think they got it pegged pretty good. So we're going to hold on to what I told you. That's our story, and we're sticking to it for now. There will be another update at 11 p.m. this evening from the National Hurricane Center, and then another one tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., and then another one tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. That's the pattern. And they're sending hurricane hunters into the storm as often as the Hurricane Center orders them. And they're dropping instruments into the storm, and that they're feeding that data into the models. And that's how they will keep us updated as this storm approaches South Florida. So there could be some minor changes in the track. I don't expect anything major. And the closer we get to landfall, the better that confidence level will be as to exactly what the effects are going to be across the southeastern United States, including East Alabama, West Georgia, and the Northeast Georgia mountains. And, of course, I'll keep you updated on that as we move through all of this. I'll be back with you first thing tomorrow morning with our primetime forecast. Typically have it out by about 6 a.m. Central every morning. Follow us over on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also put our daily primetime forecast up over on our Discord community as well. And then we will do another live tomorrow night, and we'll go through this again, do a Q&A session with you and answer any questions you may have and update you on any changes that may take place between now and then. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday evening. Remain weather aware throughout this entire event. And good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'll see you back in here tomorrow morning with your primetime forecast, and again tomorrow night around 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, with another live update from Dr. Don's Weather. Thank you for joining us.